Hello, my good people. Thank you for tuning in to In the Paint podcast. I'm your co-host, Geoff Walker.
And I'm Casey Gutting. What up?
Hey, we're excited to have you guys rock with us the entire time. But Casey, they have to know where to find us.
Yeah, you guys can find us on all the usual spots: Spotify, iTunes, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at In the Paint Podcast. We'd also like to quickly give a shout out to our executive producers, Mr. Nick O'Connell and Mr. Bill Boyd. They made this thing happen.
And because they made it happen, we're going to give it all to y'all. So tune in and enjoy. Peace.
Yo, what up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of In the Paint, episode 2 now. First episode was terrific. The response from everyone was just awesome. It was really cool to see everybody kind of jump on it right away. We had tons of views, tons of love on iTunes and Spotify. We already got reviews going, so thank you guys very much for tuning in. Make sure you keep tuning in. We're going to be dropping stuff about every 2 to 3 weeks. Also, make sure you hit up Instagram, Facebook, and check out the content we're throwing on there. So welcome back. I'm your host, as always, Casey Gutting, with my man, Geoff Walker.
Hello, people.
In the Paint, round 2. So first thing, I think we're just going to jump right into it today. We don't have a guest with us, so Geoff and I are just going to run the show, which, hey, that's what we do. First thing I think we got to talk about right off the bat is NFL playoffs for this weekend, divisional round. I watched the Ravens game beginning to end. I watched basically every game beginning to end, but I really want to get into the Lamar Jackson talk because he's getting crushed online left and right by all the haters already, which is ridiculous to me because he's had an unbelievable season. So, and then we're going to get into a little mid-season NBA All-Star stuff. Start talking about playoff. You good with that, Geoff?
I'm good with that. We also need to just touch on Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, man. That's another combo right there. Aaron Rodgers, dude. Like, real quickly. Like, I'm going to be honest. I didn't believe it was going to happen. I really thought, like, this was going to be the season where this was going to be the playoffs where everyone was like, man, Aaron is starting to fall off a little bit. And he came out and bawled.
You know, so I've seen Aaron Rodgers in person a few different times, obviously at Unbreakable Performance, the gym. I know how hard the guy works, and he's a very nice guy, contrary to what other people might say about him. He's an incredible dude. Works hard, very team-oriented, even in the gymnasium. Even when people that he doesn't know, he's giving high fives. He's that guy. He's a different type of leader in the locker room, but he's a leader that I think goes by and shows by his actions on the field. I had kind of written off Aaron Rodgers ever winning another Super Bowl.
I'm with you on that, honestly. Like, he seemed like he was at a point of his career where I didn't know what Green Bay was going to do to kind of help him get to another one. And he's on I wouldn't say the downslope, but I guess by numbers he's on the downslope, but he's still an elite quarterback and a top 5 and a Hall of Famer and all that. But I thought this was kind of going to be the year where we saw that shine start coming down a little bit. And I wasn't a believer that they're going to make a run, and here they are.
Well, you think new coach, you hear about all the stuff that was kind of going on in the preseason around, you know, practicing and that type of thing. And Aaron kind of button heads a little bit with the new staff. So I thought they had every reason not to step up. But you know what, man? Apparently, when you're a pro and a future Hall of Famer, you're a pro and a future Hall of Famer. Because this dude has kind of went back in the Wayback Machine, I guess, and just proved his leadership as an elite quarterback, but proved that he is still the guy that under center can win the big game. And they got a chance, man. And I just want to admit that I was wrong.
Yeah, I was wrong too, 100%. And I'm with you on that because really, if you look at the last year or so for them, I mean, he essentially ran Mike McCarthy out. I mean, for lack of a better way to put it, it's like Mike McCarthy isn't there because things weren't vibing with Aaron Rodgers. And they bring in, a new young coach. He's only 40 years old. And like, all right, this is kind of a make or break season for Discount Double Check over here. I mean, State Farm commercials were going to be about all that's left for Mr. Rogers if this didn't work out this year, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And, now you see him with the resurgence. Look, if I'm going into this next round, I'm like, I can rock with Aaron Rodgers. Like, I feel like he's only going to get better going forward. I don't want to put the Lamar Jackson jinx on him because, look, I did not see that happen with Lamar Jackson, but Aaron has proven he's been there before. He's been in these types of battles. I think it's a nice way to begin to maybe write that final chapter for him to get back to the big show one more time. But we'll see.
And that's a great story, too. I mean, let's be honest. Like, Aaron Rodgers going back now after, I think I've read this morning, 9 years in between Super Bowl appearances if he can hit the Super Bowl this year. That's the biggest gap ever.
For a two-time champion?
Yeah, it would be beating it. The other person that was close to that was an 8-year gap with John Elway. And then Elway won 2 in a row. I'm just saying. Broncos.
Of course you are. You're such a homer sometimes. But, John Elway was great, blah, 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 blah. But it'll be interesting. Like, if Aaron Rodgers goes back after 9 years, gets to the Super Bowl, wins, gives him 2, then, everybody's going to be pulling for him to do it one more time, one more again. And he's capable, man. The guy's athletic as shit still.
Yep.
Still has a damn cannon of an arm.
Yep.
Cool under pressure.
Yep.
The offseason will get him even more weapons. So let's see what happens next weekend.
So, Aaron, power to you, man. Go get him. Seriously. By the way, we just found we were looking through some worldwide interwebs while we're talking here. I found one of the greatest T-shirts I've ever seen. An Aaron Rodgers official Green Bay Packers Scotchy Scotch T-shirt. If you love Scotch and you love Aaron Rodgers, you need to Google that and go find it because it's pretty awesome. I love it.
I need to send him from Oban, Balvenie 14-year.
There you go. He's a Scotch guy.
Yeah, it's a big
stuff.
deal. I'm a Scotch guy as well.
I got one of those sitting on my shelf right now, actually.
You should crack it.
All right, done. All right, let's move on. Enough Aaron Rodgers love. Okay, he gets enough.
Yeah,
love.
I mean, now we're
He's
like
got a pretty
all
good
over
life.
him.
Now we're like loving this dude. All right, A-Rod, you're the man. Moving on. Lamar Jackson. We gave him some serious pub episode 1. We love him. I mean, I don't think that's a lie. Like, the dude has had an unbelievable year, an incredible story. If you haven't read up about him, I mean, he's a guy who bet on himself. I mean, Brent, let's bring it back to the Griff episode. You want to talk about somebody who bet on himself. Lamar Jackson is that dude. He's wanted to play quarterback, and every level, whether it was high school going to college going to the pros, all anyone was really saying was like, let's make you a running back, let's make you a DB, let's make you a wide receiver. And he was like, man, I'm playing quarterback. And here he is killing it. MVP season. I mean, we spit out ridiculous stats to you last episode about things he's done that no one else has touched stat-wise. And, I mean, he's already the greatest quarterback in Ravens history. Let's just be honest. And that, I mean, granted, what are you going to do? But
it's true.
It's
very short. It's very short to be. It didn't take him long to be the greatest quarterback in Ravens history. However, though, he didn't get it done, and the team didn't get it done. And I think there's a level of, let's be honest, man, the train was barreling down the tracks, and I believe I just also love a storybook. In my mind, he was going to go back to South Florida for the Super Bowl in Miami and win. I wanted that to be the narrative so badly.
I know. It would have been so nice.
And it did not occur, but it also happens when it's your first time going through something officially. Like, everything can't be given to you that easily. Like, let's talk about the Lamar Jackson story. We don't have to go through all the details. People know about it, but it's never been easy for him. Nope. It's always been difficult, and he's had to fight through those challenges that have occurred throughout his life and his career to this point to get there. So for it to have been so storybook and Hollywood ending and he wins a Super Bowl championship, I think was maybe me being a little wet behind the ears, if you will, and just wanting to see this young man have a great, unprecedented season. And look, the dude's going to be back. What I love about this guy and what I've seen and what I've read is when he faces adversity, he comes back in a very big way the next year. So he ain't going anywhere. The dude's going to be around for the next decade.
Yeah, and he's a baller. I mean, look, everybody is all over him right now online, and there's a lot of people hating and, see, I told you he wasn't that good and all that stupid shit. The guy had an unbelievable year. He had a bad game in the playoffs. It's his first big shiny light game. All right, he's only started. This is his first full season even starting, and he's put his team in a position to do something incredible this year. And they played flat. Let's just be honest. He came out flat. They had some early turnovers that killed some of that juju that you need in the playoffs and some of that momentum. And let's give some credit to the Titans, man. Good God.
But here's the thing. Titans played last weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ravens did not play last weekend, right?
No, that week off.
Okay. From my experience in sports, when you have a week off, even though, look, from the outside or even from inside the locker room, you're thinking to yourself, man, this gives our time, our guys to get healthy. They can go to the training room, get a little extra treatment, get a little extra cryo, get a little extra ultrasound, make sure our guys are healthy going in. But what you do potentially lose is the edge. You have a Titans team that came off a great win last week that's playing with emotion, that's even more connected after that win last week. You got guys just with a ton of confidence who are already in that playoff mentality. That's a different mindset that you have to be in. So they stayed in that mind state to yesterday, and then now if you're the Ravens, who you have a quarterback who hasn't been there before, you got to understand that the regular season is an entire different mentality than the playoffs are. So in order to get your mentals up to that level, you've had to have done it before. He's never done that before.
Yeah.
So now you have to shift into it. The lights are brighter. There's more press there. The stadium's even louder. In this case, it was quiet because they didn't really get going at all.
Yes.
So which is something new, which is new as well.
Yeah.
Playing from behind. So you see that situation of taking the bye, which is great they got there, but they didn't have any momentum. They didn't have anything to build upon going into that game. The Titans are a runaway train right now.
They are, man. And literally Derrick Henry. I mean, the guy is the size of a defensive end running like a 4-4 past you, over you, through you, around you. He's unbelievable. And he needs – you want to talk about a guy that needs to get more love. Like, that dude is the best running back in the league not named McCaffrey. And the only reason that he isn't, like, absolutely the best running back in the league is because the Titans literally all they have to do is hand off the ball to him, block, and let him run over people. You know, you look at McCaffrey's game, and he's all over the field. Like, he's the most versatile player in the NFL probably that isn't named Lamar Jackson. But Derrick Henry, I mean, he's ridiculous.
There hasn't been too many guys I've loved to watch run. This dude, his stride, he's covering 4 yards just on a stride.
Long.
He's just too big to bring down, and he's agile enough to make some moves as well. Like, he's phenomenal. I hope he doesn't get the in the paint jinx, which just seems to be what we might do.
A weekly thing here, apparently. So let's stop talking about Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I want to see them keep on going. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Bella, big Titan fan. She was pissed off at me as we were watching at Shelby's.
At the gym.
Yeah, yep. Sorry, Bella, but yeah, congratulations. You guys lived to play another weekend.
You got that W. Good work. Good work. All right, so what do you guys think about that? Feel free to hit us up. Talk about Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, everything we just kind of hit up. Hit us up on Instagram or Facebook. You can comment on YouTube. You can even email the show at inthepaintpodcast@gmail. Hit us up. Next topic. Let's move on. Let's get some NBA talk in because like that's really where our bread and butter is. And let's be honest, like the NBA season is really starting to ramp up at this point.
That's the end of the first quarter. I would like to welcome you back to the second quarter of In the Paint.
We're looking at mid-season awards coming up soon. We're looking at All-Star. We got a little highlight reel in the background right now, and I'm watching DeMar DeRozan just dunk on people left and right. By the way, he plays in San Antonio. Did you know that?
Yes, I do know that. I do know that he plays in San Antonio.
You guys know where San Antonio is?
In Texas.
Right. Okay.
Great place, man. They got the river down there.
He put a dude in the basket the other night, a former teammate, in fact, who, side note, played for a small college in New Mexico that a certain relative of a certain show host coached at. My man, Chris Boucher, big 7-foot long athletic cat in Toronto, was teammates with DeMar, a couple years ago. And DeMar put him in the basket the other night, like literally, and it was dirty. And now there's a whole highlight reel on ESPN about how DeMar DeRozan just keeps putting people in the basket.
It's not, look, DeMar DeRozan has been ridiculously athletic for a long time. He has what I like to call sleepy ups.
Yeah, there you go.
Because you don't really know. Everybody talks about his mid-range game, but he's explosive as all get out. I watched a couple games last year live, and I actually forgot how freaking high DeMar DeRozan jumps. When he is challenged at the rim, he's always trying to go through you. That's that, hey, I'm from Compton. I'm going to dunk in your face over and over again. If you challenge me at the rim, I'm coming through you.
He does do
He's
that.
He's been like that his entire career. So it was great to just see that resurgence. It was also good that it happened against the Raptors because there was some extra.
It was like, yeah, exactly.
Behind
you want to trade me, huh? Bye.
Yeah, so let me just dunk on you really quick, just so y'all remember.
Love that. All right, so let's talk a little All-Star break. Right now, the standings, we're looking at Eastern Conference. Let's just start there. We got the Bucks kind of running away with it a little bit. I mean, do you really think that there's anyone who can touch Giannis and the Bucks in the East? And then what do you think are the reality possibilities of them making a run at an NBA championship this season?
I think that based upon how they're playing right now, largely having the same team back from last year, they have a level of connectivity that I haven't seen in a locker room in a very long time. I think everybody's had the opportunity to see the WWE stuff they do before the game, but they're having fun. They love playing for each other. Coach Mike has done a great job of getting this group to play connected. When you have Giannis, where so much attention is paid to Giannis, and all their role players, they appreciate their role. That's the only way you can win a championship. The other guys that know their role and they stay in their lanes and they complement one another. They shoot the shit out the ball. Yeah. Giannis has increased his range. He's phenomenal defensively. Brook is a great enforcer defensive side as well, and then offensively stretches the offense because he can shoot to 28, 29 feet. Chris Middleton is a guy that, what did we say the other day? Like, if you walk into a YMCA, give him the Y.
So we were discussing this the other day, and this is going to be a segment in the future. It's basically the all YMCA rec league team. And what that is the guys in the league that you look at, and just by looking at them, you're like, I bet he doesn't have it. I bet that dude can't play. I bet he's average at best. And then he gets in a pickup game or he gets in a YMCA rec league game and drops like 50 on you. And you're like, how did that just happen? Chris Middleton is on that top 5 for the NBA. If there's an NBA version of that list, Chris Middleton is there. Because that dude, like, you look at him and you're like, all right, like, he's a decent sized dude, but like his game is sort of just nice and fluid. And you're like, okay, he can hit a couple jumpers. And then you look at the stat sheet in the second quarter and you're like, he has 25? How did that happen?
Guys underappreciated. It's like, I remember going to camps back in the day where there was 5-star camp in Pennsylvania at Robert Morris College. Shout out to 5-star Howard Garfinkel and those guys.
Man, we need to get some of them on here.
Man, we got to go old school with it. But
5-star
there used to always be like a random kid, and I mean this. Like, there'd be a kid that would come up to Robert Morris, and I'd play in the Pit 2 session. The Pit 2 session was when all the up-and-coming rising dudes, top 100, top 150 dudes would go to camp. And there was always this one kid. Kid might have been like, let's just call him like Jimmy Smith from Indiana or Ohio, for real, or Iowa for that matter.
That Midwest love.
That would have like Chucks on. And you would be like, there is no way this dude can go. That dude would get you, and at 5-star, it was hard to score buckets because dudes played great defense. You couldn't dunk there.
Everybody was balling out because they wanted to get seen real fast.
So you would have, so guys like, if you were averaging like 12 a game at 5-star, that's almost like averaging 25 at any other camp.
Oh, yeah.
So,
plus those camps, like, let's just be honest, for anybody who's been to those high-level exposure camps in high school, like, it's rough. It's rough to even see the rock in some of those plays. Like, you got so much talent on the floor and everybody's trying to show out all the time. Like, you almost have to literally steal the ball just to see it sometimes.
Yeah. So can I give you a funny story?
I'd love to hear a funny story.
All right. So my team was stacked one year. I had my man Gus. Shout out to Gus, who went on to play at Ohio University. My man Jared Prickett, I want to say, went on to play at Kentucky.
Names, I remember Prickett. Yeah.
My man Jerry Stackhouse, we know what Stack did. UNC in the league, now at Vanderbilt. And then my man Carlos Clark, I want to say Carlos went on to play at Holy Cross. So my team was stacked with a bunch of Division I dudes. All right, there's a fast break, happening. You can't dunk at 5-star camp because
which is funny.
Because you're playing on these outdoor rims on like tennis courts, and like they're like, look, we can't replace the rims.
Yeah. Side note, you're probably gonna get hurt.
Yeah, you're gonna get hurt. And also, by the way, Five Star is notorious, at least known for like, I mean, you're talking about what you're gonna have for lunch. It was like peanut butter sandwiches.
Yeah, I remember
and,
like all those camps
Kool-Aid.
being like that.
Yeah,
like there was an exposure camp in Aspen that David Robinson and the Spurs put on that I went to a handful of times. It's the same way. It was like they were like, we're hooping and probably in the parking lot a little bit, and like we're doing drill sessions in like a backyard basketball hoop.
Yeah, for real.
With like high level elite coaches.
For real.
It was crazy.
It was crazy. So I remember sitting, and I'm gonna get back to the story, but I'm sitting back and I'm having lunch, and it's me. My table was crazy. I think Jared was at my table too, and I had like this dude that went on to play point guard at Maryland, which kind of brings us back to Chris Miller. His name was Dwayne Simpkins. He was a quiet kid. And we would all just look at what we have for lunch and be so mad. Like, yo, we're about to go back out on the tennis court for another 4 hours in the sun.
And all I got is a peanut butter sandwich.
Peanut butter sandwich, some not even sweet Kool-Aid. Like watered down
like that
Kool-Aid.
watered down, like it's supposed to be 3 packets, but we're going to stretch this out so it's like 1 packet.
Exactly. So to that point and going around like, so Dwayne and the kid from Iowa, kids like that, Dwayne was a quiet dude. But yo, when he got on the court, he was running the show. As a PG that went on to play at Maryland, and I'm a kid from the Midwest, so I didn't know all the other hype that some of these guys had around him. Quiet, unassuming dude, super polite guy. Yeah. He's the guy that if you're in the Y, you're like, he just seems like a nice guy, but he can't hoop. And then completely control the game. Another nice point guard, Tyreek Turner. Went on to St. John's. Tyreek was nice.
He was that dude too.
Man, he had so much props going in, and the dude could flat out absolutely play. So it's just, you hear these old names, but I say, look, I'm in the middle. So these guys have names. They have names on the East Coast. I don't have a name. Okay, I'm coming from Michigan. I got a little name. Like, who's this kid out of Michigan? Looks like he can play D1 basketball. Kalamazoo. Shout out to Kalamazoo. So I'm on a 2-on-1 fast break. I grew up loving Syracuse. So when you're on a 2-on-1 fast break and you have Rock, John Wall's great, but you have I'm older than you, remember.
Yeah,
so
right.
when you have,
who was there before? Sorry,
come on, man, it's Sherman Douglas,
Derek
Coleman, Ronnie Cycli, Howard Trish, Stevie Thompson.
That was nice. Those years were nice.
They lost to Indiana on the Key Smart jumper in the corner with Steve Alford.
Yep.
So I grew up loving that squad, and there was a play that Sherman Douglas did, which was to fake the behind the back to your guy running the wing with you, keep it, and finish at the rim.
Yep.
That was my shit on a 2-on-1 break.
That's still my shit now in pickup games randomly.
Yeah, well, I don't play it, but you do still. You
just played 2 hours of blacktop the other day, and my whole body is dead.
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
We
got to get you some cryo.
Thinking I'm 25.
So I go on the break. It's me, the defender, and Jerry Stackhouse running the left wing. Jerry Stackhouse was built like a freaking grown man as a sophomore in high school. Yeah. And he jumped out the damn gym. So it's me and Jerry. And I'm like, yo, coming down, dribbling hard in the wing. I see Jerry. He hasn't gotten past me yet. But the defender, I need to make the defender commit so it's easy. So I give him the Sherm Douglas. Fake it, keep it, finish. Yo, Stack looks at me. You got to give that up. I look at Stack because I'm not short on words ever. I'm like, hey, man, these dudes out here know you.
Right?
They don't know Jeffrey Chenault Walker from Kalamazoo, Michigan. I just did a nice play and still finish at the rim. I'm trying to, let people know.
I can hoop.
I averaged like 11 that week, man. It was a great run, but yo, Stack was not happy with me.
Yeah.
At some point when I see
Stack,
Stack,
he wasn't getting enough shine.
Like, Stack, you went on to UNC, you're good.
Right? You're a veteran in the NBA. Like, all right, man, calm down.
Averaging like 40.
So basically, we're just mad about general basketball things.
Yeah, I don't know where we're going.
I don't know where we're going with that, but it was a good story.
It goes back to Chris Middleton.
That's what we were talking about, Chris Middleton.
Which I gave Tariq Turner, guys, a little pride. Dwayne Simpkins.
Yeah.
And I got to make sure that was Dwayne's last name. And then Tariq Turner was nice. And look, man, we had dudes at that week. It was crazy. We'll talk about those. Nuts. We'll do a full, on summer camp approaches and AAU season approach. We'll do a full summer camp.
That'd be good. When we get the coaches in here, we get the high school coaches in here for a bit, and we start talking about summer camps. Because those summer camps are anybody who hooped, those summer camps are it, man. That's what you look forward to. The second your regular season got over, you're like, all right, can't wait for. Back then, it wasn't even AAU. It was just like club ball and like summer camp, exposure camp stuff. I remember going to one. There was one in Kansas City that I was at, and it was a similar scenario where like there were some dudes with some names there, and I remember playing against Kirk Heinrich, and he was I think he was my age. He might have been a year older than me actually, and similar kind of story, like playing with him on a squad.
Kirk was ball.
Yeah, you want to talk about rec league YMCA team like Kirk. That you look at him and he's not allowed to look at, but he's a solid like 6'2" point guard who can do everything and could shoot the crap out of the ball.
Yeah, and he can guard defensively.
And he could guard. Yeah, he was a hell of a player. But I remember like playing with him for about a day and a half at this camp and being like, all right, this guy's pretty nice. And I'm like 5'10", just trying to keep up with most of these guys, to be totally honest. My skill level was there, but my size was nowhere close. And I'm watching Kirk just put in work on these dudes. And then I'm talking to some people after the first day, and we're just talking, players, who's there, all that kind of stuff. And this one coach who's there talking to us, I can't remember his name now, but he was one of the administrators there. He was like, yeah, he's going to Kansas. I was like, Kansas? He's like, yeah, Kansas. Like, he's a Jayhawk already. And I was like a junior. I'm like, all right, yeah, so that's who we're playing with right now. Okay.
So you're good.
You're good. All right, we made it. It's halftime, baby. We're going to get into shows where Geoff and I will kind of share our own personal stories, anecdotes about our experience in sports, sort of on and off the court. We both played basketball at a high level, and then obviously have been sports junkies our entire life and grew up with athletes and grew up with coaches in our lives from the time we were able to walk. And we were just kind of talking the other day about sort of past stories, and Geoff started bringing up Chicago and how the Midwest hoop scene sort of jumped off at a certain point in what I guess it was the 80s really is when Chicago, I mean, there was always hoopers in Chicago, but like
always.
But like in our minds, like you look at the 80s and 90s and the guys who came out of Chicago, it's nuts. And that led into all kinds of great stories about Geoff playing ball in the Midwest. So I'm kind of tee this up to give it a quick Midwest Chicago love, and we're going to go through a little bit of the Geoff Walker days and the Geoff Walker stories.
I'm going to try to keep it short. I have not really short, because I have so much love for Chicago as a whole. My parents are Chicagoans. I was born in Chicago, lived there till we moved to Michigan when I was 8. But all I have ever known is Chicago basketball. It was literally Dad would go out on Sundays, pick up the Chicago Tribune while we were living in Michigan. I'd be reading the sports, what happened over in high school basketball in Chicago. That was my thing growing up, and if you were in the Tribune, I knew about you, basically. So we would get Dunkin' Donuts, I'd read the funnies, and then I'd look at the high school. I'd look at, what was going on at King, what was going on with guys that played at Proviso, what was going on with guys that are playing at Simeon. All these names like in high school for me, like are legends, like guys like Marcus Liberty, Nick Anderson. I mean, you got the other guys that were like Kendall Gill. Who came out, who was ridiculous from Illinois. So I grew up in, at the time, was Park Forest South, in the Chi, outside the Chi, southern suburbs, which is why I am a Bulls fan. I am a White Sox fan. I am a Bears fan. I am not a Cubs fan. If they win, that's great for the city of Chicago.
Yeah. But
that is on the north side, and it's just different vibe.
I sort of feel like Chicago is unique in that sense that like Cubs fans are crazy. They've got some of that Red Sox fandom in them a little bit. A good sizable amount of delusion built in with like a lot of years of losing, and then they win and now they're like even more delusional. And I say that as a very open Red Sox fan. Go Sox. But Chicago's unique in the sense that like you meet a White Sox fan and like they don't hate the Cubs typically. Like the Cubs fans, they don't hate the White Sox. Like it's typically like wherever you grew up, that's your squad, and if the other team wins, great. But like then you look at other places, and there's always like the Red Sox, Yankees, for instance, as an example where like people from Boston may not even be a huge baseball fan, but they hate the shit out of the Yankees. And the same thing vice versa. Like people in New York are like, yeah, mild baseball fan.
You want to know
root
why?
for the Yankees, and then they hate Boston. Why?
because people on the East Coast are actually assholes a lot
That's
of the times.
true. Let's just get into that.
There's a level of Midwest sensibilities that are far more polite about things than other people.
Do you think that comes from like a long-term culture shift where like people started steadily moving west to get away from assholes in the East, like push it back 100 years and be like, why did people leave the East Coast? Probably because people were assholes.
Yeah, it's like we get away from all these people on top of me, and they're just
right
assholes. So that everybody started to go Horace Greeley and go west.
Shout out Horace Greeley. Wow.
But
Greeley, Colorado.
Chicago. So let me break down my Chicago.
All right, yeah, let's get into that.
All right. So growing up, Park Forest South, thought I was gonna go to like Rich Central. We thought we were gonna move and go to Homewood Flossmoor in HF, Homewood Flossmoor. Didn't happen. But amongst that time as we moved to Michigan, I would always spend my summers basically at Chicago basketball camps. The basketball camps that I would go to were Jerry Sloan's basketball camp, legendary Chicago Bull, Hall of Famer, and also legendary coach for the Utah Jazz, Jerry Sloan, which then after Jerry's camp stopped, Doug Collins came in, which was around the Jordan era in the mid-'80s, and Doug continued the camp. So I used to spend my time in the summers out at Concordia College outside of Chicago at these camps, spending time every single summer playing games like Cutthroat, which is a 3-on-3 game, learning the fundamentals of basketball. So I had the opportunity to kick it with Jerry Sloan at a young age, kick it with Doug Collins at a young age, and still be very cool with Doug because Doug's son Chris and I were the same age, and Chris went on to play at Duke. And Chris and I used to battle at the camps every single summer. And it was always fun because I wouldn't see Chris until summertime, and we'd go out and we'd laugh about, we'd watch like these Pistol Pete Maravich tapes.
Man, I remember those.
Right?
The skills tapes
Yeah,
and like the thing,
tapes?
the ones where he would do some crazy stuff, like his drills, like his dribbling drills and his passing drills. Like this dude was doing behind the back 30-foot passing drills against a wall, like hitting the mark every time.
Insane.
That's
YouTube
right,
that.
YouTube that. Seriously, if you have a kid who wants to ball and he wants to learn anything with dribbling, ball handling, and passing the rock, YouTube Pete Maravich skill sessions or anything close to that, you will find the most unbelievable shit you've ever seen.
The amount of shots that he had in his repertoire to be able to shoot and get the ball off at the rim.
He was a magician, man.
Unreal. So we'd watch that. So I remember me and Chris used to laugh because there was like he's called the pro layup. The pro layup was really just, it was a long distance kind of finger roll, which Kyrie hit something off the glass just last night. And I was like, yeah, that's a Pistol Pete Maravich pro layup.
Yeah.
Like, so all those shots we used to watch. And then Chris and I, right after that, would take it to, we'd be playing against each other in 3-on-3, which the game was called Cutthroat. And we try to mimic the exact same thing we just saw. And so we just battle, and for years we'd battle. And then from there, as I continued to get older, I used to get invited to the more high-level camps that would be after these kind of youth camps as I matriculated into high school. The idea was I go to, like, the Rich Falk camp. Rich Falk was a legendary coach. I want to say Rich was at Northwestern. He used to run a coach out in Lake Forest College outside of Chicago. And that is where I would see dudes. It was like Michael Finley.
Bounce. We talked about him last time.
Juwan Howard.
Oof,
Can I give you a Juwan Howard story?
I want a Juwan Howard story. Give me every Juwan Howard story.
So, like I said, I got lucky at Five Star and played on with Jerry Stackhouse, Jerry Prickett. Yo, my second time of going to Rich Falk Superstars camp in Lake Forest, Illinois. On my team, my center was Juwan Howard.
Oh, man.
One, the nicest human being ever.
I mean, he just seems that way, honestly.
Highly intelligent.
Yep.
And you're playing multiple games. And Juwan, he had such a high IQ. I was running the 3, running the 2. He would look at me and he literally was like, Geoff. And he'd wave me over and he'd set an on-the-ball screen for me at the top of the key. Mm-hmm. I damn near owe Juwan Howard a lot of my swag. Because I'm in Chicago, right? I'm this kid from Kalamazoo, Michigan, going down playing against all these dudes, again, that have a ton of name. And I'm just a random kid from Kalamazoo who can hoop, though.
Yeah.
Juwan sets a screen for me up top. Waits for me to come off. I come off this screen. Yo, the whole lane opened up.
Yep.
One thing I would do was, I'm a 1-foot jumper. We heard this last episode.
Mm-hmm.
I took off and what
corner.
I thought on the world. Turned the corner. Dunked on the world. And it's all because of Juwan Howard. And the scouts, and you know when you're at those camps because you kind of know when you make a play, like you kind of run back down. You're seeing like the scouts, they're
just
little
on
notebook.
their little notebook, like number 154. Who is that guy?
Exactly. They got the 3-digit long ass numbers. And then the other play, Jawan set another screen for me coming off the wing and knocked down a little jumper. So I showed the guys I could take it to the rack. And then I could pull up and hit a jumper.
And that's the thing I did love about those camps, though, is that if you had a game where you did 2 or 3 things, like that was a great game. Like if you turn the corner and finish, maybe you played D a couple times, you got a board, you hit another outside jumper, and a coach might have only seen that 6 minutes, but then they're like, yo, that kid is nice.
Here's the thing. And then I'm going to keep on talking Chicago. How much more time I got to talk Chicago? 5
minutes?
more minutes?
We got a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. So, and this is a message to the parents out there. Coaches know what they're actually looking for when they are recruiting potentially your kid or a kid that's, that they need for their class coming in. So they're looking for pieces that fit into the offensive structure and the talent that they already have on their team. It doesn't take long for a coach, a recruiter who sees all they do is watch basketball
all day
to know exactly what your son or daughter is going to be able to do for their program. What typically happens is you think that you got to go out there and score 1,000 points, play outside of yourself, not be a team player, and you got to get buckets. It's not actually the case. What they'll do is they'll look at your body type, do some measurables that way, do you pass the eye test, number one, and then they're like, how does this kid play the game? Is he an effective communicator on defense? Does he lay it on the team for the line? Does he take charges? Is he going to make the right pass at the right time? Can he knock down a mid-range or a three-pointer nowadays? Even a lot of times, like, can you knock down a square-up 3 out of the break, which shows that you actually work on it?
That means you're working on it, and you can stop on a dime and shoot the ball.
Or do you recognize, like, when you get run off the three-point line, do you make the right pass to the corner or do you make the right pass to the block? Yep. And then, like, at the end of the day, do you freaking defend? I swear up and down, I got a scholarship because I could defend the shit out the ball, and I could knock down a mid-range jumper.
And because truthfully, you're right. And let's look at it just slightly deeper. Part of the reason that coaches are looking for players like that, I mean, they're assessing everything you just talked about. Part of the reason is because there are attributes and there are skills that can be taught at the next level. So if the coaches look at a player and see, okay, he's got a little bit of it, he's worked at it, you can tell, I can take him to the next level, that's who they're interested in. And oh, by the way, how's his attitude? How does he high five his teammates? Has he got good energy? Is he out there playing hard? Body language. And you can't hide that. Like, if that's who you are, that's who you are. And coaches look at that. So what kids need to be doing is obviously working on their skill sets. I mean, you can't overwork ball handling and shooting. You just can't. No one is ever going to do too much of either of those things. Nope. So start there. And then from there, you have to have a great attitude, and you have to work your ass off, and you have to be okay with working your ass off. And that's all it is. Coaches look for that still to this day. I remember my dad telling me that when I was 6. I was lucky enough that he was coaching college basketball when I was growing up. So I literally grew up on a college basketball court. But I remember him telling me that stuff when I was 6 years old, all the way up through the end of high school. And it still rings true today.
Parents, it hasn't changed much. So, all right. So that's our message to the parents out there listening who want to get their son or their daughter recruited. Just play the game the right way. Yep. It's not hard to do. All right. And trainers, by the way, teach your kids how to play the game the right way.
Oh, man. There are so many whack online personal coaches that have doing the stupidest drills I've ever seen.
Worst drills ever. So as I'm growing up and we're hooping in Chicago and I'm going to these camps and so on and so forth, we used to always, as a family, this is why I'm hyped for it to be back in Chicago, the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Because every single Christmas in the 80s that I recall, it would be Knicks versus Bulls.
Jordan.
Versus Ewing. And
Starks.
That was when you would just, like, murder somebody if they came into the lane.
There were no flagrant 1 and 2s back then. You
None.
either got up off the floor after a foul or you didn't. And that was kind of it.
Yeah, there was no, that was it. Maybe a tech, maybe if it got to almost fisticuffs,
or
maybe.
if they throw punches. But even I remember times there were punches thrown, dudes didn't even get thrown out.
Yeah,
it was just like tech on each side, shoot the free throws, keep it moving.
Those were the days. So as a family in Michigan, we'd open up Christmas gifts on that day. We'd hop in the old Saab, S-A-A-B, and we'd drive down, whether snowing or not,
so
94 freeway to Chicago. Get there early to the Chicago Stadium, people. The stadium, not United Center, the stadium. And we'd stop to get deep dish pizza. at Dewey's. All right, Dewey's was the joint.
Shout out Dewey's.
Shout out Pizzeria Dewey. And then also Pizzeria Uno as well. They were right across the street from them. They're still kind of that same way now, but there's other deep dish places. But that was our tradition. Then we'd go watch Mike hoop. My brother has an old school picture. We got a joint with him pregame hanging out with Charles Oakley. We got pictures with MJ. We got signed autographs with MJ. We got posters of MJ from Doug Collins camp. My brother played against MJ one summer at Doug Collins camp. I had the luxury later on to play against Tim Hardaway at camp. He used to come do a little speaking engagement. He crossed me over and laid me up night. He was nice. So all of the Chicago love is crazy. So when I was young, we used to always talk about how Chicago basketball was the greatest. So as we'd roll through and we'd listen, I think it was WGCI, listen to a little R&B, little hip-hop, little Chicago house music. We'd flow in. We'd go to see DePaul University games. You're talking about the legendary Ray Meyer.
Yeah.
I'm talking about guys like Mark Aguirre,
Yeah.
Terry Cummings,
Yeah.
Dallas Comegys, Rod Strickland.
I walk this earth with my rod and my Strickland.
Man, these dudes could flat out go. DePaul in the 80s.
They were nice. They had like a 10-year run that were just like, that was the Midwest team.
Hoop was crazy in Chicago. Then you hear, you got the stories.
Hersey Hawkins, dude.
Oh God, Hersey Hawkins went to Bradley. Hersey Hawkins was a
dude,
bucket.
He was a Chicago guy. I forgot about him.
Hersey Hawkins, bucket getter. Like
Dude.
these dudes, and this is why Chicago does get a lot of love. But then you got guys in the league now that are from Chicago. Like the basketball tradition there is real, and it is on par with the New Yorks. It is on par with LA. It is on par with Detroit. It is on par with now. Like there's a gang of basketball players that come out of Texas now.
Yeah.
Like so, Chicago love is crazy for me. So I'm super excited to have it go back, especially All-Star game, because I remember back in when it was Jordan versus Neek. One of my homies was a ball boy in Chicago.
I remember that.
My homie Kerry Sullivan, his dad Bob Sullivan was a legendary high school coach in the Chicago area, and Kerry used to be the ball boy for Chicago Bulls. And that iconic MJ poster, him taking off
poster, yeah,
taking off with the threes, and it's funny because Kerry's actually in that poster with his mouth wide open.
That's so great.
And it's just I still laugh at it when I see the image of it because it's always like Kerry's immortalized.
Yeah, right. Like he's in that poster forever and
forever.
What that was like 83 or 84?
No, it was like I want to say
85.
Like 85.
That was probably his like MJ's like third-ish year in the league, fourth maybe.
Yep.
And those were those classic dunk contests. That's another thing. For you people out there who've never watched that, or your kids, you want to show them what dunk contests look like. Like, now we sound like these old dudes, get off my lawn. But,
well,
like,
I'm going to bring it back.
Dominique and MJ dunk contest.
I'm gonna bring it back and hope I'm not going to miss anything. So, after I've watched all the Bulls championships, I'm still a major Bulls fan. However, I'm still very angry with how everything ended. You broke up a dynasty, Chicago.
Yeah.
We had a chance to continue, maybe get one more, maybe two more.
Definitely.
Mike wasn't done yet. Scotty wasn't done yet. Phil wasn't done yet. But Reinsdorf wanted to go in a different direction, which is bothersome to me. Crumbs, Jerry Krause wanted to go in a different direction. I'll just throw out his name. R.I.P. to him though and his family. However, I'm still angry about it. I stopped watching Chicago basketball for probably almost a decade after that. I was heartbroken. Like I watched hoop. I moved out to L.A.
Yeah.
Became a Laker fan to a degree. My boy was playing on the Lakers at the time. But bro, the one guy who brought me back,
Derrick Rose.
Thank you.
Derrick Rose.
D Rose brought me back to Chicago basketball.
He had the buzz back with the Bulls, man. When he came and he was an MVP, Derrick Rose, that like feeling, because I similarly, I grew up a Bulls fan because of MJ. I had no connection to Chicago other than being a kid who loved me some Michael Jordan when I was young. You know, my dad was a Celtics fan. He loved Larry Bird. And then my generation grew up watching Mike. And my goodness, I love the Bulls. But I was similar. Like, they lost. And I was like, now what do I watch? I don't know. I guess I'm a Nuggets fan because I'm living in Colorado at that point in my life. But when D Rose came back, and all of a sudden there was that hype on the Bulls again, like it took me back to my childhood instantly. Just seeing them play on the Bulls court and there being a crowd and there being some hype behind it. Oh man.
D Rose, I want to send a special shout out to you.
Seriously.
Well, let me thank Juwan Howard for my confidence and my swag.
Thank you, Juwan Howard.
That I carried over into my college days.
And now as an adult.
And as an adult still, because I'm so happy he's at University of Michigan doing his thing.
Yeah.
And I want to shout out Derrick Rose. Like,
seriously.
I'm a basketball junkie. I had lost the NBA love until Derrick Rose reconnected me with the Chicago Bulls. And now I'm back. You know, I want them to do well because, I wish D Rose didn't have the unfortunate, injuries.
There's another guy with just rough injury life.
Yeah, man. And he's found a way to persevere and get through, and he's playing great for Detroit right now.
And he's an all-star level player right now, after how many knee surgeries?
Which just goes to show you the level of his commitment and his mental toughness and his athleticism at the same time, because to be able to get through the injuries he had to get through and his level of toughness. Like, Chicago kids are tough, man.
Yeah.
But now he's in Detroit doing his thing. He's gets to shake hands with a guy who I couldn't stand back in the 80s, that being Isaiah Thomas. And the Bad Boys. I hated him. But Isaiah Thomas,
from Chicago.
He's a Chicago dude. So I kind of got to give him a love, except for he went so Detroit. Where I just have,
he did it. He went full.
Because he was mad that Mike got all the love in Chicago.
Yeah, and he was back then, like, Isaiah, from all accounts you hear about, like, back then, like, he was not the nicest dude ever.
No.
And, like, he kind of was one of those dudes that, like, people just sort of hated, unless you were his teammate. Yeah. And then you loved him.
Exactly.
But that's funny too, and I never even thought of it that way. Like, he was a Chicago dude and ended up in Detroit.
Yeah, which at the end of the day, like, if you're a Chicago dude, you want to be able to go home, have all that love that you've had when you decided in the '80s when he went to Indiana in 1980 or whatever, and then left pretty quickly because Bob Knight's an asshole. And
it's a topic for another day.
Yeah, another day. Pat Knight is a good kid though. His son's a really nice guy.
I heard
his
that
son
too.
actually. The reason I went to New Hampton school because his son called me and said, "Hey, you should go to."
Is that right?
New Hampton. Yeah,
really?
Pat Knight. Because my brother knew Pat. Anyway,
okay.
But Isaiah Thomas, man, you're a great analyst now. You're doing your thing. I wish you nothing but health and wealth and everything.
He was a hell of a player.
He could go as a little guard. Like, I give it up to him because he could flat out go.
And he was maybe 6 feet on a good day. Like,
athletic as shit.
Yeah, he was great. I loved Isaiah.
But I'm excited. I mean, the wrap up is this. It's going to be the All-Star Games going to Chicago.
Yeah, so tune in this year. There's going to be fireworks there because it's going to mean something to a lot of people to have it back in Chicago.
It means the world for me to have it back there. I'm not going to go. I'll be at the Combine, though, in May. But I'm not going to go back because there's one thing, as much as I love Chicago, dead of winter. Not really trying to be there in February.
That is some Bury coldness.
So that's my Chicago. But look, at the end of the day, man, State Street, Lake Michigan, Chicago Stadium is what I grew up with. Artis Gilmore, Reggie Theus, Sedell Threet, like guys like that back in the early 80s who made a little kid. We used to sit up in the rafters of Chicago Stadium, like, for real. And then as we got older, the tickets, like when we were going to Knicks games, they progressed. Our tickets were lower.
Yep.
And then thankfully, this is why it's crazy. Like, I'm such a blessed dude to be around basketball now. Like, I would have never dreamt. 10-year-old Geoff did not know the level of access he's going to have at NBA arenas at 45 now, and then be able to, know coaches. I bumped into, told you I bumped into Malik Rose the other day, who's a great guy who was my host at Drexel University. Like, this NBA thing is freaking real.
The NBA family is unbelievable, and you're right. You've had a very, I wouldn't call it luck because you're a great guy and you're a great ball player. I call it just fortuitous, I guess. That you're here.
Basketball privilege.
Yes, basketball privilege.
I was at the right places, went to the right camps, continue to know the right people.
Yep, and make good relationships. And I've been able to be around for some of it, and it's truly unbelievable. The NBA community is terrific when you get in there, and all these guys, seriously, like, most of these coaches, most of these players, they're all terrific people. They really are.
They really are.
And some of them get bad raps.
But it's all because of my roots in Chicago that gave me the love for basketball, playing against my man Bobby Brown in the front in the driveway, my big brother shooting granny style, my man Jason Young across the street. Shout out to Kyle Taylor, who's still a very good friend of mine. Brad Taylor, still a very good friend of mine. And all we used to do was go outside to the driveway and flat out hoop, and then go want to
driveway hoops. Baby.
Are we going to go to Rich Central? Where are we going to go? We're going to go play at Illinois. Where are we going to go play at? And that's what we did. And we played in all these damn camps, all these damn 3-on-3 tournaments. Chicago has my heart to this day. Best city in the world, except from November to April.
So there you go. We're gonna kind of wrap this episode up with that. We'll do this every once in a while. Geoff and I both have a lot of stories that it's kind of part of who we are, and you guys will realize that. But we love being able to kind of reminisce and talk about, give love to people and places that we've been and we've been able to have experiences with. And this is a perfect kind of first episode example of that. So you guys will get a lot more of that kind of talk as we keep going. And every single name we drop today, y'all are welcome on the podcast. Every single one of you. I mean, if anyone out there in these pod waves hears this and was like, you know what, we need to talk to Geoff and Casey, give us a shout. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, at In the Paint Podcast. You can email us directly, inthepaintpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
Join us. We're rocking. Let's go. Second half.
Second half. Here we go.
It goes down in the paint. In the paint. It goes down in the paint. In the paint. It goes down in the paint. In the paint. It goes down in the paint.
So jumping right back into it, similar scenario happened when I was in high school. We went to one of those, what were those 3-on-3 things, the 3-on-3 tournaments.
Well, they had Hoop It Up, but then
I think
for
it
me
was-
in Midwest, I had Gus Macker.
See, I think ours was Hoop It Up. And we were at one of those with a couple of my high school teammates, like running through people was great. I mean, Colorado, so it was like, you know, if we were top echelon, 3-on-3, boom. And they had a dunk contest at the end of this thing, right? And this was also when Athletes in Action was a thing.
Mhm.
You remember when they were like traveling with the Hoop It Up tournaments? So they have a dunk contest, and my boy on my team wins the dunk contest for the tournament. Right? He was 6'6" dude who could bounce, long. Shout out Jim Pesic. What up? Wow. Been a minute. So he wins the dunk contest, and this big, huge athletic dude from Athletes in Action comes walking out. He's like, all right, you and me, we got to do our own little dunk contest. And the crowd's all around, and they go through a few rounds. This dude jumps over a person. He jumps over a ball rack and like reverses. And we're like, who is this guy? And we start talking to him afterwards. It's Richard Jefferson. Like, we're like, oh, before we even realized who he was, because he was like not even at Arizona yet. I think he was
Right.
gonna be a freshman. And we're like, oh, where you headed at? And he's like, oh, I'm going to Arizona. Like, Arizona? Yeah, Arizona. Cool.
Yeah.
Word. Seeing the NBA in like 2 years.
Yeah, Richard Jefferson had a crazy bounce.
That guy was nuts.
So in the East, bringing it all back full circle.
Let's come back to the NBA. Enough old timey stories. Yeah, can anybody mess with the Bucks?
No.
I don't think so. I don't see how they don't. The Celtics give them a little run. The Heat give them a little run, but both of those teams are at least a piece away, player-wise and roster-wise. And Giannis is a beast. Let's just be honest. And the Bucks, they're deep. And if you're not paying attention, they got 9 dudes who can play.
And guys who played in big playoff games before.
With a lot of veteran experience.
I
Chris
love
Middleton's
George Hill.
like, oof.
I love Eric Bledsoe.
Oh, yeah. Bledsoe's another one of those guys. Like, obviously, he looks like a running back.
Yeah, he might lift too much.
He might. He could probably stop. Like, we get it, man.
He's
swole.
bouncy too.
He is
Good
super
God.
bouncy. And he's got to be like, yeah, he's 30 years old. So he's been around for a minute, too, and he's still super athletic.
Eric Bledsoe can get you 28 if necessary.
Yep.
George Hill can get you 28 if necessary.
Corver can get you some buckets coming off screens.
4 or 5 threes. That's all you need from Kyle.
Wesley Matthews is on their roster.
Long.
Like Chris Middleton. I mean, they've got a squad, guys. You guys watch out for the Bucks. You heard it here, not first,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Watch out for the Bucks. All right, so
Captain Obvious.
yeah, the East is wrapping up with Milwaukee. So let's get to the conference that
matters.
This is the one that
And I'm completely invested
Haters
in.
gonna hate that we're completely invested in being in LA. First off, love to my Nuggets. I'm a Denver guy. Love.
They beat the Clippers last
They
night.
beat the Clippers last night.
They've beat them a couple times this year already.
They match up well, surprisingly, and it's because they got guys like Gary Harris, Jamal Murray.
Yeah, I
Like,
was
they
gonna
got
say
dudes who
Murray,
can
but
go.
I didn't want
But
to
Gary Harris, yeah, I know you were trying to help. But Gary Harris can defend. He can do a little bit of everything. Having said that, the Nuggets are fun. They're still somehow a piece away from being an actual contender in my book. Like, maybe they make a run and get to the Western Conference Finals, but there's no way to me that they're beating the Lakers or the Clippers in a 7-game series. So I just want to give that love right out the gate because they're my Nuggets. But I love Joker. I don't see it. Having said that, too, it's nice to see them good again because there was a period of time where I just kind of was like washing my hands with that franchise.
I like the Nuggets. I like Joker. Also, shout out to Joker, the movie, getting 11 nominations.
Yeah, which we will get to in another episode with the Academy Award episode.
News came out today. We bring it all
Yeah,
together.
it did. Bring it all
Joker's
back.
nice. The whole squad is nice. Michael Porter Jr. is playing well.
And he could be the guy.
He's an X
in a
factor
year
right
or
now.
two, he could be that other guy.
Yep.
You know, which would be nice. That'd be a good story to hear because like that dude has had a tumultuous go of it so far with just remaining healthy.
Yeah, back surgery. That's nothing nice at that young of an age.
No,
But he's
man, that's
playing
tough.
well these last 2 weeks, and I just feel happy for the young man. So I'm just going to talk about the Clippers for a little bit.
Let's get some Clip talk in because the Clippers got a soft spot in our heart. You guys will learn this as we keep going within the paint, but with the Clippers got a soft spot.
Well, part of it goes back to everything that we're about. We highlight the underdog. All right. In the city, the Clippers are the underdog. They are the blue-collar franchise in the city, and that's
really
okay.
are.
Because I always resonate. I love underdogs. So as I see what the Clippers have done this offseason when they picked up 2 gigantic names, superstars in the league, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. You guys might have heard about that.
They're pretty good.
And now they have this new identity, which means you have guys that haven't necessarily played in the spotlight. Now every single eye of NBA universe is on you. So if you're not used to that, mentally that takes a little bit of getting used to.
It's a lot.
Because it changes the dynamic of those people who are following you. You have expectations now. So you now have a target on your back because everyone is already anointing you potentially NBA champions because of the fact that you have Kawhi, who just won with Toronto, and you were able to bring over Paul George. That's a lot of pressure for them to have. And is that the Clips calling right now?
That's the Clips calling us right now.
Hold on. Do we have to
Hold on, let's get that.
Hello?
Hello, Doc. Doc, is that you? Oh, he must not be. All right.
Doc got ejected yesterday. He just wanted to call the vent. So as this thing goes along, I mean, look, they have to figure out, one, I actually love how they're managing the health of guys. Last night, Paul George did not play against the Nuggets, hamstring issues. So these guys got to stay healthy. My statement is this. After the trade deadline, we'll see what happens. I don't know if they're going to make any moves. We'll see, because they could make a couple moves that I think would help bolster their offensive efficiency going into the second half of the season.
We kind of were talking about that off mic for a little while about how there are moves that they could make that would make sense for a playoff run to kind of add a little extra piece and a little extra piece of offensive gunpowder. Firepower.
Yeah, because they could use that. And I think they also need to get a PG that, look, Pat Bev is great, but I also think you need to have some of that in spells that can help get Kawhi off the rock and Paul off the rock so they don't have to do so much work. And obviously that's Lou when he comes in, but at the same time, even to get Lou off the ball, a little bit, I think that would help them down the road. If it might help, you're looking at if you end up playing a team with a big center. I love Zubac, but I think you need another guy as well. Trez has been playing phenomenal.
Trez is amazing. Real quick, love the Trez, man. You want to talk about a dude who I have gone completely 180 on. When he first came into the league, I didn't think he was going to be the player he is now, and I think a lot of people probably didn't. I thought best possibility, highest ceiling for him was like a energy guy who came off the bench and gave you some rebounds, a couple block shots, that kind of thing, maybe some garbage around the hoop. But he has elevated his game, and he is a force inside. I mean, and he's in a perfect scenario with the Clippers too, where he doesn't have to be anything necessarily, so he can just kind of naturally get his. And it benefits the team and works into their offense perfectly.
I've also said, though, that I think Trez has to score 18 or 20 off the bench in order for them to win because he's their energy guy. And he puts a lot of pressure on the second unit centers. And he's done a better job of being able to take people off the dribble and finish at the rim consistently and knock down some free throws so much. So I love Trez's energy because we need that off the bench.
He also rocks some hot retro J's quite often, which makes me happy.
It makes me happy, but I also get concerned about his arches falling. But that's a whole nother. You're playing in ones,
dude. How do you play? I've never understood that. How dudes could play in some Jordan ones.
This is when you're super athletic and young.
And you're just like, I don't care, and I walk on my toes and balls on my feet, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, when you're young, you can do a lot of stuff, but when you're 32, 33.
I saw a dude once. I remember in college, we had a guy who would play in some Air Force One high tops, like in the off season, and I was like, your knee is gonna blow out. Like, what are you thinking?
Air Force One, world's heaviest Nike.
Oh my god.
So look, the Clips need to make some moves. I don't like where they are right now, but I feel like if you're gonna go through a little bit of growing pains, and now is the time to go through growing pains. Come after All-Star break, it would be a beautiful thing to watch them gel and probably decrease the load management and allow these guys to play multiple games together consistently so they get the right rhythm going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's good to have a little bit of maybe guys, not all on the same page mid-season, just so when it comes after break, guys are rocking and rolling, everybody's on the same page. So I still have them coming out the West because I think they play to the level of competition. When it's time to step up, right now they feel like only beating the Lakers is the only meaningful thing they need to do. No, you're going to need to beat the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Jazz, the Rockets.
That's the thing. Like, you can't just win the city.
No,
like, there's too many teams in the West.
Yeah, you got to win every time. You got to know how to go ahead and win on the road. They've been shitty on the road. So
yeah, that's true. I mean, it's there. Don't get me wrong. They're a championship caliber team. It's all there. When they get into a playoff series, it's going to be real hard to beat them 4 times in a series.
Oh,
it's going to be real hard. Because Kawhi and Paul, even if one of them has an even mediocre game and then they get some Lou help and they're going to be tough to beat. And they can guard. I mean, in theory, they can guard.
In theory, they win ugly because they don't score a lot. In the playoffs, that's what it's actually going to be.
And that's what it's going to be. There's not going to be 130 to 125 games in the playoffs. No. Unless you're playing the Nuggets and, there's that weird game where no one plays any defense.
I need for them to take care of the rock more. Too many turnovers.
Yeah, that's the thing. We talked about that too. Like, what did I call it the other day? Paul George has got the case of the nips every once in a while. Not the yips, the nips.
Well, he's got a case of he's turned it over a lot, and I think that's because he's doing a lot more ball handling than necessary, but I also think sometimes he takes chances trying to split the double teams with the behind the back.
Tries to make the hero play every once in a while.
It's not even the hero play. It's just... At some point, you got to understand, you've been taught to never try to split a double team with the behind the back dribble. It might work once, it might work twice, but it's not going to work consistently.
It's got a 5% effective rating.
Yeah, so I'm not going to. I don't think Paul George is a hero dude in that way. I just think sometimes he has a little brain cramp.
I'm with you on that.
The game is won in the fourth quarter. Let's go.
Fourth quarter, baby. Fourth quarter. Looking through the rest of the West, I mean, we know the big names. The Lakers, they got the talent to be there. They're going to be tough for everybody. The Clips, I love them. I love the Mavericks. I love them. I think they're still a piece away probably, or just a experience level year or two away. But, man, Kristaps and the Unicorn on the floor at the same time, that is a real tough guard.
Those are the two of the same people.
I did just say two of the same people, Kristaps and Luka. But yeah, Luka, there's another guy. You look at him and you're like, okay, he looks like a big, tall, goofy white dude. And then he comes out and drops 40 on you and goes for 40, 10, and 8.
European white guy.
Yeah, man, he doesn't get enough love. Luka's the real deal. If you guys haven't watched any Mavericks games, you need to jump on that any chance you get, because he's one of those guys that is worth tuning in just to watch him, because he will make plays left and right that you're like, how did he even get to the lane? How did he get that shot off? Or he just pulls up from 28 and just knocks it down.
He's a savant. He's been playing with grown men since he was 13 years old.
Yep.
And that helps tremendously. Luka's IQ is unrivaled. Yeah, he's gonna be great.
He's a basketball guy. He's gonna be good for a really, really long time. On that same note, let's look at the opposite. Houston. Houston, we have a problem. I don't think they're fun, but what are we doing really at this point?
They're
James,
competing.
Yeah, they're gonna win some games. They're gonna get in the playoffs. They'll be in the middle of the pack. Maybe they get out of the first round, but Harden's gonna give you 50, and Westbrook's gonna give you 10 assists, 10 rebounds, 20 points, and 10 turnovers, and
I wish I could say that it's different for them this year. I think they're gonna be the top half of the West.
Yeah,
of course. They'll win the first round playoffs. I just still don't see it.
It's
something's missing.
Something happens in the NBA with some of these teams, and this is a bigger picture discussion, but this used to be the Nuggets for a while too, where you get to a certain point on your roster and your trajectory as a team and a franchise that you just sort of, I think, subconsciously become complacent with who you are a little bit. And I know no one will ever say that from the franchise, and no one will ever admit it, but I really feel like Houston is a little bit cool with being the third or fourth best team in the West, and don't get me wrong, if they play well in a playoff series, they can beat you. But you can't honestly look at their roster and think that they're an upper echelon Western Conference team. I love James Harden. I love Russell Westbrook, but I just don't see where they're going. They need major moves to make a next jump.
So there's certain franchises that have enough cojones now to like make moves, and that's why Blake Griffin hates the Clippers.
Right? Because they just blew it up. They're like, this isn't working.
All right, CP might not be a fan of the Clippers either. You know, DeAndre Jordan might not be a fan of the Clippers either because they made that tough decision where, okay, we probably reached our ceiling. We gotta reinvent ourselves.
Exactly.
And take a gamble and reinvent themselves.
Exactly.
And that executive team
and you
at the
can
Clippers
fail very quickly doing that, but you got to take the chance.
The executive team with the Clippers took a chance and they did it, and now they're in a better position to actually win a ring.
Yeah.
I think it's tough for Houston to do that, even though they have some guys that can go.
They've got players. I mean, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Clint Capella, Eric Gordon, all hoopers. But then from there, it sort of turns into the like, oh, I know these names, but you know, like, and this is nothing. Again, these are all they're fine third-tier guys. Really, I mean, Ben McLemore, he can gun. Chris Clemens can gun, and then you know, PJ Tucker, Thabo Sefolosha, Austin Rivers, like.
But all right. So now looking at the guys who play their roles perfectly, PJ Tucker plays this role.
Yeah,
perfectly.
he does.
Gerald Green's been hurt, I want to say, the majority of the year. So you get Gerald Green. I don't know if he's out for the season, but Gerald Green is a crafty enough defender and knock down an open three.
Yeah.
Ben McLemore the same. Knock the open three and will guard.
Yeah.
The question is, are they a cohesive enough unit? Do they share the rock enough through the regular season so when playoff time comes and all of a sudden you get past the rock with 3 seconds left to shoot, you got to be ready to knock that jumper down. That's what's tough about how they play.
I agree. That is 100%. I agree. That's the toughest part about how they play is that their blueprint is James, go make something happen. Russ, go make something happen. So that's great. You win some games that way because those guys are so incredibly, enormously talented and are savants at what they do. But the rest of the squad suffers a bit during the season for exactly what you just talked about. Like, you get to a point where someone has to make a play when in a playoff series they're focused on James and Russ, and they need a third guy to make a play, and no one is ready to do that.
Well, and after in a 7-game series, man, all these teams are distinctively prepared for playoffs, and defensively, schematically, will have a way to shut down those guys.
Yeah.
Look, the Warriors did a great job against James 2 weeks ago or so, and I think now you're getting a better understanding of how to take him away.
Yeah.
And in the playoffs, look, they take him away. It's a different game in the playoffs. So I look, he's the best scorer we've seen. Jesus, probably in the history of the NBA.
Probably ever. He's the most unique scorer the game has probably ever seen, and has changed the way you can score. I mean, changed the way that you can get things done offensively. He's incredible.
But to wrap this up, I don't see them. They're not coming out the West.
I don't see it either. I don't see it either. I think that's probably a good place to stop. That's going to be a wrap on episode 2 for In the Paint. Hope you guys had fun. We covered a lot today with the NBA, a little bit of football there at the beginning. We even got some story time from Uncle Geoff there in Chicago, some Chicago hoops. So Geoff, cheers to you, my man. As always, thank you guys for listening. Hit us up on iTunes and Spotify and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Give us the ratings. That's how we live. That's how we make our bread and butter. So we appreciate that, you guys. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Peace. This has been a production of In the Paint Productions with executive producer Bill Boyd, executive producer Nick O'Connell, audio engineer and composer Kevin Rodriguez, and hosted by Geoff Walker and Casey Gutting. Thanks again for joining us.
Oh man, I got these ashy ankles working today. Oh shit.